July 1518, Strasbourg. A woman steps into the street and begins to dance, and cannot stop. Within days, dozens join her. Within a month, 400 are dancing until their feet bleed, until collapse, until death. Her name was Frau Troffea. She danced for 6 days straight without rest. No music played. No celebration was happening. She simply could not stop moving, her body jerking and spinning in the summer heat. Then it spread like wildfire. By the end of the first week, 34 people were dancing. By mid-August, the number had exploded to roughly 400, all trapped in the same relentless, involuntary movement. This was not a festival. It was not a ritual. People danced until their feet bled through their shoes, until heart attacks and strokes killed them. Strasbourg faced something it had no name for. But why would hundreds suddenly lose control of their bodies? To understand that, we need to see the world they lived in. Because Strasbourg in 1518 was a city on the edge of collapse. Famine had ravaged the region for years. Grain prices had doubled, then tripled. Smallpox and syphilis tore through the population. People were starving, sick, and terrified. Worse, the church offered little comfort. Priests preached that the suffering was divine punishment for sin. The population was exhausted, malnourished, and psychologically shattered. This was the powder keg waiting for a spark. And Frau Troffea was that spark. Within days, more dancers appeared in the streets, unable to stop, their feet bleeding through their shoes. Then the contagion accelerated. By mid-August, over 400 people were seized by the compulsion, dancing day and night in the summer heat without rest or reason. Witnesses reported that dancers moved with wild, jerking motions, their eyes vacant, oblivious to exhaustion. Some danced until they collapsed unconscious. Others simply died where they stood. The city's records confirmed deaths from exhaustion, heart attacks, and strokes. What began with one woman had become a medical catastrophe consuming Strasbourg, and no one knew how to stop it. Which raises the question, what did the dancers actually feel? Contemporary accounts describe a terrifying loss of control, bodies moving in wild, convulsive spasms while the mind screamed to stop. The physical toll was catastrophic. Dancers went days without sleep or food, their feet swelling grotesquely, bones breaking from the relentless motion, skin tearing open from friction and heat. Death came from cardiac arrest, heat stroke, or simple exhaustion, the body giving out after days of forced exertion. Witnesses reported dancers collapsing mid-step, dead before they hit the ground. So the city council convened to find a cure. Their diagnosis? The dancers were suffering from hot blood, a medical imbalance that could only be cured by more dancing, which led to their solution. Build wooden stages in the public squares and grain market, then hire professional musicians and dancers to help the afflicted dance themselves to exhaustion. But the result was catastrophic. Instead of curing the dancers, the music and stages drew even more victims into the compulsion, causing the number of active dancers to surge. By late August, the authorities realized their mistake. They dismantled the stages, banned all public music and dancing, and began searching for a different solution, one that acknowledged this was no ordinary illness. Desperate, the city tried everything. First, they organized pilgrimages to nearby shrines, forcing dancers to walk miles to pray to Saint Vitus, the patron saint of epilepsy and uncontrollable movement. When prayer failed, the city council reversed course completely. They banned all music and public dancing, shut down the stages they had built, and threatened punishment for anyone encouraging the dancers. Finally, in desperation, authorities began forcibly removing the afflicted from Strasbourg entirely, loading dancers onto carts and transporting them to mountain shrines miles away, hoping isolation would break the contagion's grip on the city. And then, in early September, the dancing simply stopped. The last victims collapsed, were carried to the shrines, and did not rise to dance again. The compulsion vanished as mysteriously as it had arrived. The city credited the pilgrimages and prayers to Saint Vitus for breaking the spell, but we have no evidence the religious rituals actually worked. The timing may have been pure coincidence, which leaves us with the question that haunts historians 5 centuries later. Why did hundreds of people dance themselves to death, and why did it suddenly stop? The leading theory today? Mass psychogenic illness, stress-induced hysteria in a population already broken by famine and despair. Here's the mechanism. Prolonged trauma, starvation, disease, religious guilt, creates a psychological breaking point. When one person breaks, others in the same state follow, their minds surrendering control to involuntary movement as an escape. This theory explains everything the city records show: the exponential spread among the poorest, the sudden onset without warning, the inability to stop despite awareness, and why it ended once the triggers, music, crowds, fear, were removed. But what if the dancing wasn't madness at all? What if it was poisoning? Some historians point to ergot, a grain fungus that causes violent convulsions and hallucinations when consumed. But the theory has fatal flaws. Ergot causes seizures and muscle spasms, not coordinated rhythmic dancing for days, and it would have affected far more than 400 people in a city eating the same grain supply. So 5 centuries later, we're left with a historical paradox. We have the city records, the eyewitness accounts, the death tolls, but no definitive answer to why it happened or why it stopped. So 5 centuries later, we circle back to where we started. In July 1518, Frau Troffea stepped into the street and began to dance, and within a month, hundreds joined her, trapped in the same deadly compulsion. The dancing plague reminds us that even with records and theories, history can guard its secrets, and that human vulnerability, whether to stress or poison or forces we still don't understand, remains terrifyingly real.